Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is at the Milwaukee Public Library, interviewing candidates in the 2014 elections. We're interviewing Jessie Read of Sussex, a Democrat running in the 22nd Assembly District. Jessie, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you.
A programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Jessie, this is your first campaign for state office?
It is.
Then give us the short version of your background.
Well, I would say the reason I'm running is that back in 2010, I was in the voting booth and getting ready to vote, noticed that for state senator, my state senator, he was running unopposed. This made me furious. And so I just wrote my name in. And then I told folks afterwards what I had done, and they said, well, you should run for office, you should run. Well, I had never thought about it before. But I now decided that, yeah, we need choice on the ballot. We need to have these important elected posts contested so that people have a choice, and that's why I'm running.
Okay.
My husband and I moved to the Milwaukee area in '94. We were raised in a small farming community in the Midwest, not unlike where we live now in the town of Lisbon. And we had the values common to all of us: honesty, integrity, hard work, to be independent, but helping the neighbor when they need it. And I think that's common throughout. And that's what I bring to my campaign, is those values.
Well, we have seen in the last 4 years some major policy decisions in the state capitol. Other than the fact that you think there should be a choice in the ballot in the voting booth, any of those policy decisions over the last 4 years cause you to run?
I would say that my biggest issue, my core issue for this campaign, is reducing the influence of corrupting big money in politics. That's really what I'm running on, and I feel that we should not have our voices muffled by big money, which I think is happening right now, but particularly after the Supreme Court decisions of the last few years. If I don't care what stand you take or how you feel about a particular issue, if you don't have the big money, your voice is not going to be heard. And so I'm running to help people reclaim their voice, to get their voice back.
Because you feel so strongly about the purity of campaign donations, I mean, are you not accepting PAC money? Are you putting a limit on the amount of donations you'll accept? Talk to me about how, if you think big money is corrupting, you've chosen to run your campaign.
I will not accept the expanded limits that just recently have gone through.
Okay.
I am keeping limited to that. I only take PAC money from organizations that are nonprofits that are not industry-based. So, for instance, if it's a particular industry, I will not take their money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that put you at a big disadvantage?
I'm sure it does, but that's part of the integrity bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about issues that, if you're elected, will be in the next state budget. If you're in the Assembly and public aid to schools is being debated, what's going to be your priorities in the next budget for aid to schools?
My feeling is that our public schools are the lifeblood of our democracy, and I would support restore the funding to our public schools. I know that there's been a big push for the vouchers to expand those statewide. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a good idea. Number one, we can't afford to support two separate school systems. which that puts us into. And the idea that we would take money away from our public schools, give it to the private schools through vouchers, and yet not require that those private schools follow the same rules, the same regulations that our public schools have to abide by, and then say, oh, the competition will make you better, even though you have less funds and you have to abide by more stringent rules. That's just setting up our public schools for failure.
Would you keep the choice program in the city of Milwaukee, which has had it for more than 20 years, ma'am?
I would, only because it has been there that long. But I would actually put some more limitations. I think that these schools that accept voucher money need to have more accountability to the public. They need to be able to have the same rules and regulations that our public schools have to abide by.
This summer, as you know, Governor Walker said Wisconsin should withdraw from the Common Core standards. Your position on that?
I have mixed feelings about Common Core. I think in general the idea that there should be standards that we should expect and teach our kids and expect them to meet or exceed, that idea makes sense to me. What I'm worried about is implementation. I don't want our teachers having to teach to the test and be testing kindergartners and young children. I don't see that as productive. Yes, there has to be accountability, but the teachers need to be able to teach. And I also don't want our teachers made responsible for the scores of their students in terms of that's solely the way that they're being graded themselves. Mm-hmm. So I agree in general, and I think if there is agreement with the educators that this Common Core is a good idea, then I defer to their professional judgment.
Transportation funding.
Yes.
Your suburban 22nd district, highways are so important, yet there's a projected $600 million deficit in the 2-year transportation budget. Your thoughts on how to make up that deficit, ma'am?
We need to look at both sides of the equation. We need to look at both revenues and expenditures. But I do think that we can only raise revenues by so much with user fees and extra taxes before it really starts to hurt our economy. So that is only part of the equation. The other is we got to look at these expenditures that we're spending our transportation funds on. Are they something that is good for the long term and the most benefit for the most people, for our state, for our economy? Or is it just helping a few individuals and corporations in their bottom line short term? That's what I think we need to look at.
If the expenditure side was carefully scrutinized, would you consider raising both the gas tax and or the license plate renewal fee?
I would. Everything's on the table.
Okay.
I would look at it. But again, I don't want to hurt the average people in terms of jacking up prices on that. And I really don't think that is going to solve all the problem. We really just have to look carefully at what we're spending our transportation dollars on.
Healthcare funding is one of the biggest items in the state budget.
Very much so, yeah.
1 in 5 Wisconsin residents gets their health care through our Medicaid program. The American Hospital Association says our Medicaid reimbursement rates are second from the bottom.
Right.
Do you think those reimbursement rates should be increased?
I want to study this a little bit longer in terms of I would like to see how Wisconsin varies from the mean. They're second from the bottom. Well, how far away from the middle are we? But actually, it begs the question, if we had accepted the Medicare funding from the Affordable Care Act, would we be in this situation of low reimbursement rates? I would hope that our next governor would pursue our federal funds, our tax dollars that we've paid in, to bring them back to Wisconsin.
I want to ask you about something the governor announced on Sunday, and that is He's going to recommend, if he's reelected, drug testing those on public assistance, unemployment benefits, and food stamps. Do you support that?
I don't. I've seen what it has happened in Florida, and it makes no sense fiscally. It truly makes no sense to put folks that are in need of these services through something that is not going to find significant drug use. It's not going to happen.
Okay. He also would like to limit, right now it's 60 months, he wants to cut that down to 48 periods that you could get those public assistance, unemployment benefits, and food stamps.
I think that you need to keep those benefits in place, and the reason is for economic reasons, not only to help our folks that are in need of them, but for every dollar of public assistance is like something like 1.75% dollars, or 175 that goes back into the economy. Okay. These monies get turned around right away, and they're a very stimulative effect. So I think cutting back on that assistance would hurt our economy.
As you know, a regional sales tax was imposed to build Miller Park. There's a big debate on how to pay for a new arena for the Milwaukee Bucks. Right. My question is, do you think state aid should help build a new arena for the Milwaukee Bucks?
You know, I'm not sure about that. I would need to study it some more, but just on the surface, I'm thinking this is like providing aid and welfare, if you will, to the wealthy. You know, I understand that having a professional team in the area and having a nice stadium does have some nice economic benefits for the area. And I'm not saying that the city of Milwaukee or Milwaukee County couldn't help with some financing, with maybe some tax reductions in the building of this, but I'm not certain that the state needs to be involved, especially when there's so many other things that need to be taken care of first.
The Legislative Fiscal Bureau recently issued a report saying that there's a possible budget deficit of more than $1 billion in the next biennium, the next budget. If there is a deficit, how do you think it should be made up? This is the general fund, not the transportation fund.
The general fund, right. Again, we need to look at both sides of the equation. I have an accounting background. I'm a bookkeeper by trade. And I understand how taxes can be structured in such a way that they encourage certain economic activity and also can stimulate the economy and still raise enough money to provide for the common good. There are ways of doing this if we look at the tax structure, and it's something that I am interested in because I've dealt with taxes for a long time. We also need to look at the expenses, and I will back up and say that I think budgets are moral statements. How we raise money and how we spend money tells an awful lot about who we are and what we value. And that, to me, is what is important, is what we look at what we're spending on, if we are investing for the good of all, for the benefit of all, and for our future, or are we wasting it on projects to benefit a few corporations that have the big money? Again, coming back to the money in politics.
The bill to legalize medical marijuana will be reintroduced next session. Colorado and Washington have legalized recreational marijuana. Yes. Your position on those issues?
My feeling is, first of all, on medical marijuana use, to me this is a bit of a no-brainer. And I want to back up and give you a short personal story on this. When I was a young child, a good friend of mine's mother had terminal cancer. And marijuana was the only thing that gave her comfort during her last days. His dad had to go out on the street and illegally buy marijuana to make his wife comfortable at the end. I thought that the risk of that was just terribly unnecessary. And considering that we also use some very dangerous drugs now for pain relief and other medical situations, why, opiates and whatnot, why can't we regulate medical marijuana, a rather benign drug in my opinion, to help those folks that it would really truly benefit from its medicinal properties?
Should we consider the making it legal for recreational purposes? Excuse me.
I have mixed feelings on that one.
Yeah.
But I would, you can argue whether or not it's a gateway drug. I mean, that's been debated for years, and whether or not it would go into drugs that are more harmful. But I would say that we need to look at other considerations when we're talking about legalization. Right now, as a country, we incarcerate a larger portion of our population than any other major industrial nation in the world. And a good number of those incarcerated are there for nonviolent drug offenses. The cost just in building and maintaining and keeping these people locked up is tremendous. Plus, there is the social cost of having that large of a percentage of our workforce out of commission. They can't be productive citizens in our society. On top of that, there is the pain that is inflicted on our minority populations. Studies have shown that recreational drug use, marijuana use, is a fairly constant percentage across both white and minority populations. But the overwhelming number of people locked up on nonviolent drug charges are the minority populations. And this is causing great stress for those populations, and I think that's what we're seeing now today. The stressors are starting to come out in our society. So if we legalize marijuana, if we regulate it, if we tax it, we would reduce those costs that I mentioned. We would reduce the threat of organized crime groups, and we might even raise a little bit of money for our state in the process.
First offense, drunken driving. Should it be a crime?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think that there should be penalties and processes in place that are applied fairly that would help toward rehabilitation and or making sure that there is not a second offense. Second offense or more, yeah, I think there should be some criminal liability there.
Finally, I want to give you a chance to highlight any differences between you and your opponent on November 4.
My opponent is stressing how her policies and her positions are right in line with the party in power right now. She stresses that she is the conservative voice in the area. What I have not seen is how she is going to listen to hear all of her constituents in the area and whether or not she will take their voice, all of them, to Madison. That's what I plan on doing, because I want to be the public servant for the common good.
Thank you. Jessie Read of Sussex is the Democratic candidate in the 22nd Assembly District. Jessie, thank you for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you, Steve.